like to ask if anybody besides LCAT is recording this meeting.
Shirley Tanberry for
Okay. We'd like to review and approve the minutes of the meeting of April 29th, 2014.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 29th, 2014.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, then at this point, we'll ask for the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I expect we'll have a fairly short presentation tonight. We really don't have any new items on the agenda, but I do want to give you updates on a number of different items. The first item to update on is paving, and want to give you the good news that starting tomorrow, we will be, Palmer Paving will be paving Sanford Street, Meadowbrook, and Pease. After they finish that, they have some additional preparation work to do on Chestnut, and they'll be going to Chestnut on Monday, and potentially doing all of Chestnut on Monday, both the segment from Excel to Holly as well as going up the hill all the way to Summers Road. Of those streets, the majority of those are being funded through Chapter 90 funds as well as the pothole repair funding that we received this year. Sanford Street is being paved as part of our capital projects because that was a water main project that was installed by the department last year, and the funds for the paving piece of that will be coming out of our capital budget. After that, then our focus is going to shift to Elm Street. We remain on schedule to begin work in Elm Street on July 7th, right after the 4th of July parade. I am meeting with the Conservation Commission tomorrow night. Given that the scope of the work has changed from a straight mill and overlay to a reclamation project, it has the potential to trigger their jurisdiction, where we cross culverts and things like that, so we just want to make certain that they're on board and have that out of the way. So again, we'll be meeting with them tomorrow night to make certain that's taken care of. The next item on my list would be to go through budget expenditures through May 7th. And similar to past months, we're tracking very well compared to previous months. We are 84.3% into the calendar year, and most of our budgets are showing that we're at 84% or below 84%, and in several cases below where we were last year. It's somewhat amazing to see in my mind that our energy budget, despite the very long, very cold winter that we had, we're only a couple of percentage or fractional percentage points above last year, and we're still well within budget. That was one of my concerns, that given the tough year we had, that might be an area that we'd be challenged with, but it's looking very good at this point.
Awesome.
So really, I think we're on track. Our waste budget, our disposal budget, is the tightest budget, and as I've talked about in previous months, we are looking to make certain that we allocate pieces of our disposal costs to our other divisions in order to bring that budget line item in on budget. As you know, many of that line item supports many of our divisions. For instance, it supports building maintenance to a great extent in terms of any waste material that's generated by building maintenance. So typically, as we get to this time of year, we start taking a hard look at where those costs really should be distributed across all the divisions.
Do you think our energy is due to some of our conservation measures and some of the things we've done to the systems? I would say it has to be part of it,
I think
right?
some of the energy management systems have obviously benefited the department of that. Night setbacks, I believe I've done some reconfiguring in some of the night setbacks and everything else, and I think it's paying off. And obviously some of the other energy efficiency programs we put in place too, lighting retrofits, I'm assuming, and everything else is playing along with that too.
Awesome. I would say it has to, because costs are up.
Right.
Electricity and gas are up, so oil's up.
Right.
Are we still on oil?
I've actually locked in a few weeks ago. We've only locked in, I believe, 3,500 gallons for next year. Our total, this is rough numbers, I believe we've only expended about 7,500 gallons last year for number 2 heating fuel. So that's gone down considerably. the last few years as we've been retrofitting our facilities with gas-fired units.
Awesome. And we are really looking at, I think, our last building that is oil-fired is this building here.
Yes.
And I know Bruce is working on coming up with a plan for switching that over to either dual fuel or to natural gas.
Yeah, and that dollar figure was roughly about $20,000, so I've kind of been holding that on the back burner for now, and I'll probably end up presenting that to capital next year because of the cost.
So, the shop's heated with waste oil,
That's correct.
so oil, number 2 oil for like this end of the building?
Yes.
Or are we using it up there too?
They actually coexist. The waste oil will burn off, but it's like a supplement to the heating oil that we have pumped into the tank. They burn through the same system. They're connected.
Yeah.
It's my understanding. To exactly how, I'm not absolutely sure, but
Is that a boiler system or a hot air
The
system?
waste oil burner is just an oil burning system that actually just pumps air into the shop.
So it's hot air?
Hot air, and then we have the boiler, which does the baseboard, and then there's some hydronic blowers in the space out in the garage also, but those are usually turned off because of the waste oil burner heats most of the shop, and I believe just down the end bays, there's one unit down the end that kind of keeps that building at like 50 degrees.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have a gas-fired unit back in the sign shop that takes care of that building because of the computer equipment and stuff back there.
Right, right. But I know they make waste oil boilers.
Yeah, this is a pretty new unit. I believe we upgraded that a couple years ago. We had some good incentives through Sandry Services, who services that unit.
within the last 3 years, for sure.
Yeah.
The next item I had was just to give you an update on street acceptance. Again, you may recall that there are 4 streets that are currently on the town meeting warrant for acceptance. Canterbury Circle is in pretty good shape. There's a couple of minor paving repairs that are going to be done by Palmer Paving in conjunction with their work for the town while they're in town, instead of having a separate mobilization. And so we expect that in the next few days, those repairs, really where the old pavement connected to the new pavement, will be taken care of in time for town meeting. Black Dog Lane is in good shape, with the exception being that there's a crack that needs to be sealed going down at the center of the roadway. We've had some discussions with the developer for Black Dog in terms of the type of sealing product that we would like, which is a fairly high-end product, and we're working out the timing of that, and we're considering having the developer incorporate that crack sealing at their cost as part of town-wide crack sealing efforts that we do later this year. And if we did that, we would make certain that we retain bond amounts adequate to cover the cost of that sealing. So it's a very small amount of work that needs to be done in order to have double or duplicate mobilization, incorporate things as part of a single project, again, at the expense of the developer. Dearborn Street extension is not as far as along. We will see. I know the developer we met with on site today, myself and Mr. Mirandi, is going to work hard over the next few days to try to bring everything up to snuff. And we indicated that if everything gets done, we'd be in a position to positively recommend acceptance, but there's no guarantee at this moment that we will be. And then lastly, Fenway Lane, we've received no response from the developer on Fenway Lane relative to our comments. We do have a couple of development projects that we are keeping tabs on right now. The Pondview project is underway. The majority of the road fill has been brought on place and put in place and compacted. We have met with the developer and advised him that we'd be looking for some confirmatory compaction testing as the grades are finalized and before gravel and paving is brought into that street. Since there is a considerable depth of fill that was put in place as part of the roadway construction.
How thick?
At the deepest location, maybe about 8 feet. It's really primarily at the cul-de-sac at the end of the roadway, and it fairly quickly comes up. So it's 8 probably to 4 feet across most of the road.
Yeah, and it was pretty good material.
Correct, yeah, all very sandy material. And we have issued our first stormwater permit to the self-storage facility on Industrial Drive. And have made it through that process, and the bonds are in place, et cetera, that are needed, so that's underway as well. The replacement of the signals at Elm and Maple Shade, that project goes out to bid tomorrow, with bids for that work due on June 6th.
What was the issue a couple weeks ago?
At that intersection, let's see, we had issues at Shaker and Chestnut, where we ultimately ended up having to replace one component in the controller. I think going before that, I believe we had some issues as well at Maple Shade and Elm, and I believe that was primarily issues in the wiring to the signal heads. Most of these were installed back in 1987, and the wiring is getting old and cracked, and when we get heavy windstorms, we tend to have problems.
Okay.
Sometimes we can reset the signals and they're fine, and other times we have to bring Northrop in or someone else in to repair the wiring.
Chase the wires.
Correct.
But if this comes back, if the bid comes back on June, we're gonna be updating those signals in July, right?
Lead times will probably be longer. The actual signal replacement probably won't happen until this fall at some point. You know, typically anything these days is, 8 to 12 weeks lead time
Right.
on any sort of components or equipment. And what it'll mean is that as the road reconstruction for Elm Street will be done first, and will continue to operate because the existing signals, although they were designed with loops, the loops have not been functional for quite some time, so they're currently on timers alone.
Oh, okay, so we're not using the loops at all?
So we will go through and mill through or reclaim through the loop area, but that won't affect the operation because they're not being used anyway. And so the existing signals will continue in operation as they are probably into the early part of the fall. And then at some point, we'll have to take the control cabinet out of operation, the signal heads down. We are keeping the existing poles themselves, but the span wires will be replaced and all the electronics will be replaced. And it may be a week or two of time where we have those signals either on flash or on stop signs, or a combination of both, while they're taking down the old and putting in the
Put a
new.
new one on.
Is it gonna be a loop system, the new one?
It will be a loop system.
So they'll
correct.
put that in while they're doing, or is that added later?
That'll be put in, ideally you put the loops in the base course and then you pave over the top of that, so it is specified that there'll be two separate contractors. The contractor for the signal system will have to come in advance, install the loops as part of the base course work that Palmer Paving is doing. And then they will go away perhaps for a month or two and come back to do the actual signal installation.
Yeah.
So at the intersection, will we go out on Maple Shade both ways and do all those over too? Probably should, right?
We will go some distance, I forget how far away from,
A car or two length. right,
yeah,
to
probably
get the
50 to
loops.
100 feet in that range, yes.
Yeah, awesome. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Get that done once and for all.
Oh, let's see, my last item was just a quick note to mention to the board that I'll be meeting with the Board of Selectmen this evening, expecting sometime around 8 o'clock this evening, to basically bring them up to date regarding the history of the Summers Road landfill, particularly given that we have some new board members and no members that are really are probably extremely familiar with the history of the landfill. The reason we're doing this at this point is that we have a deadline of the beginning of June to present the draft of a plan of how to phase the closeout of that landfill to DEP, and that, given that the DPW has operated that facility for a number of years, has responsibility for the transfer station, the waste activities that preceded the transfer station are activities that the Board of Health, or actually Board of Health, has a responsibility for. So I would expect going forward, there's a shared responsibility in terms of getting that site closed out and in a condition that we can move forward with it. We are expecting to be able to get approval to do whatever needs to be done over several years and likely do it with DPW forces. We're expecting to propose no activity in fiscal 15 because, as you know, there's nothing that's been allocated for any type of expenditures there in fiscal 15, and have the first year of expenditure, whatever they may be, depending on phasing, start to be incurred in fiscal 16 and beyond.
Okay. Fred Caldwell retired, the health agent. Who's the current health agent, you know?
I met the current health agent with Mr. Gorman last week briefly, and my understanding was that the current agent is moving on. I don't recall exactly,
Yeah.
but, so I met the gentleman.
I think Lori McCool's coming back.
Okay.
It was before.
We're gonna
she
use
left.
Lori.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's coming back.
She's a good common sense person.
Good. And that's it for my update.
Okay. Now it's time for the operations manager's report.
Well, you know, this is a very busy time for us, just doing the day-to-day maintenance. Ball fields are all going very well. We're in the process of firing up all our irrigation. The two hydrants, the yard hydrants that we talked about at the last board meeting have been installed at Heritage Park. The one in the dog park area, as well as one by the pavilion. So we're in good shape there. We're doing a little bit of cleanup. We're looking at May 19th to start up the sidewalk on Parker Street. There's still a little bit of work there to do as far as stump removal on some trees that were taken down late last year.
But we got all the trees down now?
They are, yes, that's correct.
All right. Have you had the opportunity, or you and Bob have the opportunity to go and look at moving the crosswalk in the center? By subway?
Discussed it, but we haven't had a chance to get out in the field together.
Yeah.
Just looking at it, I think I know what you folks want. I don't see it as a big, we talked about it last week, and we're gonna, I think, put it off to this week to head down there.
I think
But
we
I
moved it
think
down
we have-
towards Subway.
I think we have the cobblestone on hand to do what John had asked for, and moving the crosswalk down would not be a very difficult thing as far as labor
Yeah.
or costs on that end.
It's just that red plastic or rubberized.
Well, we could do something more temporary with a nice thick paint, as far as, I know we want to stay
Consistent?
consistent with the other crosswalks, but those are worn as well.
Yeah, they're all pretty worn in
You know,
there.
so perhaps at some point, if it's through scheduling, we could have those redone and this at the same time.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look like it would be a big burden to do what the board had requested.
You know what I was talking about, the signage, like if
Right.
you see those islands like that, all the signs seem to be like at the point,
Correct.
as if they're markers for plowing snow, but the signs actually hang out into the roadway. So if somebody's coming through there with a truck, they don't want to hit that, you know?
They're like magnets.
Well, yeah, but they stick out past the point. So maybe if they would move back, the trucks would stay off that curb.
I did reach out to Sergeant Bates because I wanted to make certain he didn't make sign changes and had him concerned. He was actually very supportive and agreed with your observations as well.
Okay.
That was really what was
Yeah.
pushing the truck traffic in the way that it currently moves.
Yeah, and maybe the signs move back, but we just leave a pole or some type of a marker at the edge where if you're plowing snow, you can still see the edge, you know what I'm saying? It's just a simple,
And like, that's about it.
okay.
Any word on the guardrail for Pleasant, Porter, and Maple Shade?
No.
No.
We were unable to get an accident report. We did look into what we had in stock to see if we could do something ourselves. Most of that is radius, and we have none. At the same time, we had Bartlett come in and give us a price to have it repaired. And I believe our thought was it's been like that for a considerable amount of time. If we could just wait a little bit longer and get through this budget period into the next, and at the same time, pricing out some radius pieces, see if it's something we can do. It's a tricky corner. They drive those posts into the ground. Those posts are actually, some of those posts are actually over the edge, holding that guardrail.
Yeah.
They're very long and they're driven almost into the brook. And, or I think we probably would have tried to have done something already ourselves. It is very tricky.
Okay.
So you're saying after July the 1st?
Yes, sir.
It unfortunately looks like it'll have to be our expense because we've worked with the police department several times. John has gone down and himself, looked over the shoulder of staff going through the records and can't find any documentation, as surprising as that might be.
Yeah.
That's correct.
On that same note, if you don't mind, I just did want to mention that there's a pedestrian post that is out up by Stop and Shop, I believe, that was
That's-
taken
yep.
out in an accident
That's
this
correct.
winter, and we are actually working through the insurance company to have Northrop come in and replace that at no cost to the town, because there
Right.
is an accident report.
Right in front of Panera Bread.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah. I was there the other night, I saw that.
Oh, one other thing, do we, over by the dry bridge,
We were settling?
we're settling, have we had time to investigate anything, or is it too early in the season to?
Dan, we spent a great deal of time investigating that, filming the storm drain system, which there's two of that run underneath there, and we found no sand and no debris, nothing getting into the system, which you would think it has to be absolutely going somewhere. I think our thought right now is that it's settled.
It's just poor, it's poor compaction.
Very poor
Finally
compaction in that area, and it's settled very gradually. It isn't something, I don't think, where there was a big hole.
Oh, no.
And this just dropped. You're talking about probably over a 7-8 year period. This is just, and the reason it's gotten so noticeable now is that the road has a crack in it, and it's puddled.
Can we fix that with some of that pothole money maybe?
We definitely could, the pothole, or we can reallocate some of the Chapter 90 money.
Yeah.
It's almost the same money if you can think of it, just call it
Right.
two different things. Yeah.
What do we have to do, mill it and?
Probably would cut it out entirely, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Repack it a bit.
Yeah, given that the settlement is as much as it is,
It's pretty defined now, like almost 6 inches.
right,
Yeah.
as I think Roy Esposito had and John had recounted too, what they recall having happened at the location was in the two culverts. One of the culverts, I guess there was a problem with the culvert or failure of the culvert during construction, and the contractor had to re-excavate the area and put it back, and it's likely that's, when things weren't necessarily put back,
Compact.
as much
It
compaction
lifts.
as,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. If you're all set, then we'll go to the building facilities report.
Yep, Pine Knoll Pool project is going well. The stainless steel gutter has been installed, pressure tested and completed. All the related perimeter piping was completed today. That will be pressure tested tomorrow and backfilled, and then all the sidewalks will be installed, retaining walls and fences, so that project's going along well now. High school tennis court project, contracts are being executed on that. We do have a pre-construction meeting scheduled on site on June 3rd at 10 a.m. Just to go over with the contractor, myself, and the town's expectations. Last thing I do have is the electrical upgrades, and that contracts are being executed on that end.
Pretty much it.
That's it.
Awesome.
You got any other business? Yeah.
Do we have another meeting or?
Yeah, next one is the rate setting hearing,
27, May 27.
May 27th,
Yep.
May 27th, 5 o'clock here, rate setting hearing and regular meeting.
Yep.
All right, nothing else, motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, good job.
All right, imagine that, huh?
All right, we got